Hello there and welcome back.
Yes, you're still watching World Hour from Jakarta.
A Japanese photographer based in New York, Toshi Kazama, visits Indonesia for a special photo exhibition which will be held in Jakarta this week.
Yes, he was invited by the Coalition for the Abolition of the Death Penalty in ASEAN to support a campaign of anti-death penalty throughout Southeast Asia. Here's more.
Kazama is one of the few visual artists whose words are considered even more articulate and impactful than his works. A former commercial photographer, Kazama has now dedicated his life to the abolition of the death penalty. His photographs are characterized by black and white, starkness and bareness, focus on the instruments of execution or on those waiting on the death row. Kazama's life changed after a chance assignment for former United States Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, in which he conducted a photo session of a youth in the death row. After a considerable trepidation of going in the presence of what he called a monster, he found out that the monster was a normal-looking child with severely limited intelligence. He stated that the death penalty usually fell on the poor, uneducated, marginalized, or persons of color. Death penalty in Indonesia has been a part of the law in the country since its colonial era. Post-independence, the death penalty typically was only reserved for first-degree murders, terrorism, and narcotics-related crimes, though in the New Order era it has been used for political prisoners as well. In that regard, its existence has also been a long-standing subject of debate between its supporters and detractors.
And now to talk about this issue, we have with us in the studio Mr. Toshi Kazama, a Japanese photographer based in New York, USA. Hello, sir, and welcome.
Hi, thank you for inviting me tonight.
Anytime. Now, before we go on to your exhibition, tell us your thoughts on the death penalty in Indonesia. We're done with the second row.
Right.
On the third row, how do you see it, with the current government?
It's sad, not only Indonesia in this country, but in this region, is the death penalty is widely exercised, not only for the murders, but also drug trafficking and so on. I think it's the killing mules of drug trafficking doesn't solve the issues. And I hate to see the nation killing people in the name of execution to build a better society. I think it's to make a better society, you have to respect life of each individuals, and we have to focus on the prevention of the crime to happen, so that you and I don't become a victim. I'm also a murder survivor of a murder attempt, so I can say this to the people.
So what do you expect from your exhibition that will be held in Jakarta?
Yes, I like to, people talk about death penalty, but they don't know the reality of the death penalty. I photographed each execution chambers, and then they photographed the death row inmates and their family members, and also the victim's family. And then not only that, the executioner of each execution chamber. This is a key. Often people think that yes, death penalty is needed. We need a death penalty. When you commit this crime, you need to kill somebody. However, do you have guts to hold a gun in your hand and pull the trigger by yourself? A lot of people don't want to kill another human being, but you push all that things to the executioner, so-called executioner. Normally is a regular guard at the prison, and they have to go through, and then everybody that I meet, you see, no one is happy killing a human being. So the executioner as well, they told me, every executioner, please tell this to the whole world, so that we don't have to kill more human beings. So, while the society, supports death penalty, I want to ask each one of you that, do you have a guts to kill another human being, in the name of justice, or sometimes in the name of victim?
Now, the methods of execution, does that make a difference at all? By injection, by hanging, by firing squad, does that make any difference at all? Or is it all
I've been to most of the execution chamber in different methods in different countries and different states. The electric chair, this is the most humane way of executing, because once you put the switch on, you don't feel anything. You're brain dead immediately. But your eye pops out, the whole body becomes burned to charcoal, and then the whole body fluid runs out from the anal. and then and then the hanging is not actually suffocating. You separate your head and neck like this. You drop a human body 2 meter to 4 meter, and then that is separate. That's how you kill a human being. And then the lethal injection is the 3 chemicals to introduce to the human body. And then the first one to put you to sleep, second one is to first one to make you calm, the second one is to put you to sleep, third one is to froze and shrink all the muscles in your body. And then so the heart stops because surrounded by, and then there's a hollow space in your lung that make a sound pum and collapse.
Okay.
And often it's the chemical leaks.
And that is the legal way, an applied method in North America and Europe, while in Asia.
No European state has death penalty. So when you look at the world as a death penalty, this region is very unique that they're still exercising widely with the death penalty. So that's why I'm focusing this region and then trying to show my photograph and have the people to understand the reality of death penalty, not just the idea in itself, but actually seeing the photographs, seeing the execution chambers, seeing the death row inmate. Often, even myself, when I photographed the first kid, I thought, oh, all these murderers looks like a monster. However, when I meet them, it's no different from anybody on the street.
So do you think like we can say like, do you see them as victims of unfair trial system or justice system?
Well, I think it's when it comes to the victims' family, the first priority they need is the financial support and also mental support. It's not the often you see the victim's image of right after the crime happened. They're like asking for revenge and then asking for maximum sentence. But the victims' family has to change over the period of time because in order to go on with their life, they have to forgive themselves. Not forgiving a perpetrator, but they have to forgive themselves from hatred and anger. If you're filled with hatred and anger within yourself, I see many victims' family take their own life, commit suicide.
Just to Indonesia, just a little bit. Is Indonesia, in a sense, violating human rights in letting death penalty allowed, or how do you see that?
I think there's the human rights issues involved with death penalty. You call it violations, or you call it many ways you want. However, once you understand the reality of killing another human being in the name of execution, I mean, the first murders should never happen. That's human rights to begin with, right? Everyone is right to live. However, when you see the reality, it's not almost like a beyond violation of human rights. It's the reality of killing a human being. It's so bizarre how they kill the people. So to me, it's beyond human rights. And yes, it is a human rights issue. However, it's not just a word of human rights. It's just actual killing a living being. Because you and I can go on with life because we don't know when we die. We may die of car accident or we may die of sickness. But execution, we know you going to be executed on this day, this hour. We know for sure, which to the minutes that you're going to die. And then we kill you in the name of justice.
So do you think like our government execute drug smugglers to deter other drug traffickers from committing the same crime? Do you think it's effective?
Well, I think that's for you to decide because you know the situation in Indonesia far more better than I do. However, executing the low-end mules doesn't solve the core issue of a drug, right? I think the source has to be captured rather than capturing the mules at the bottom line. I think it's so many corruptions happening too in the many parts of the world. So I think it's the corruption comes in factor with a drug issue in many countries too. So I hope this people focus on the sources so that in this society of the Indonesia will not be influenced badly with the drug. Killing a mules who's transporting these drugs are not the ultimate solution to solve the problem.
All right, Mr. Toshi,
Okay,
thank you so much for your
thank
time.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
Yes, the government admitted that the tax amnesty service for big taxpayers is still sluggish.
Stay with us. That's next.
Let's do yoga exam.